More juice for the gyro.
I like the juice. Yeah. Juice is good.
Welcome, guys, to another Decision Point live stream. Of course, Andy here with Steve, the Hitman Caladesi, and it is almost time for the NFL draft, guys. I'm pumped, man. The excitement is in the air. I can almost taste it. And so we are joined. Steve and I are joined tonight with our content director, Brandon, who is also a professional college football sports writer. So appreciate you joining us tonight, Brandon. As always, guys, the show is sponsored from UnderdogFantasy.com, where you get 100% instant deposit bonus with promo code Quest. The Best Ball Superflex draft is full. The $10, $50,000 first place prize one is full. They still have a rookies and sophomores one, which is really interesting, which parlays perfectly with Dynasty Fantasy. But they've got pick'ems for golf, NBA, NHL, and like all the major sports. Incredible fantasy platform. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, that's promo code Quest, 100% instant deposit bonus up to $100. No slow drip. So guys, before we get into the questions, because we've got a lot of fun stuff around football cards, snipes, collecting, investing, different platforms to buy, prepping for card shows, like all kinds of really fun stuff, talking about the NFL draft, sleepers, risers, fallers. Big announcement. If you guys did not hear on the podcast the other day with Carter, we are ripping a Bowman University college football hobby box. This is a brand new product from Topps, getting back in the game. Bowman U, it's going to have that first Bowman logo on it. Some really interesting cards coming out of that set. A ton of the premium, like the top 100 NCAA football prospects, juniors and seniors. So very excited. We've got 15 slots. We've opened it up. We're actually going to break. We're going to do a box break live next Wednesday night, guys, 8:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure you look out for that. And also, if you wanted to get in on the box break, make sure you turn those notifications on and look out for that. So, Steve, how's your evening going, sir?
It's going pretty well. It's always a good day to see some packages at the front door, which I got on deck here. I'm excited about the Bowman U. You know, we talked a bit about that a few weeks ago, and I myself got a little slot for the live break for Wednesday, so I'm excited to see what we get out of that. You know, maybe some 101 super fractors, perhaps.
Oh, dude. Yeah, they've got a big kahuna case hit in there that I've already seen Malik Willis on it. They've got Bryce Young confirmed in there, CJ Stroud, some of the best 2023 college football prospects. Speaking of college football, like I said, Brandon has professionally covered college football for many, many years. Very happy to have you on here with us, Brandon. And because you're here, we're going to let you kind of run the show tonight. You're also the Quest content director, so this is perfect. I'm going to let you take it away, Brandon. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. And folks, I got to say, I'm very excited for next Wednesday. And he's 100% right. Bowman U, I am a little bit of a baseball fan, Royals fan. And when I do collect baseball, I love Bowman. I love that first Bowman look. I'm actually currently looking for an Alex Gordon first Bowman. It's hard to say 3 times fast. But I'm very excited about it. Hope to see you folks there next Wednesday, 7:45 Central, God's country, whether you're in the break or not. But if you want to be, do check out the community page. We will have that information dropping soon. Hello, everybody in the chat. By the way, before we get going, let's hear what you have to say in the chat. We're going to be hitting on a number of topics. Want to hear what you have to say as well? Let us know. We will feature you live. So hello to everybody. Steeler, Jason, Derek, Justin, Jason again, Derek, Jason, Don, love it. Cody, we got your question, I believe, as well. Justin again. All right, boys. With that being said, we got everybody in. Sit back, relax. Let's do this. So starting off, our first question is from Reading, Preaching, Teaching from the YouTube community page. I need advice on buying cards at places other than eBay, card shows, card shops. Are there any options that are better than eBay. Andy,
Better
why don't you go ahead and
than
take this
eBay?
away? Better than eBay. Better than eBay. What do you
I don't
got?
know how
Andy?
you no. So the thing is, like, right, eBay has the most traffic. It is undoubtedly has the most traffic. It gets the most volume. But I'll throw this to you, Steve. Steve is very good about tapping into these other platforms and finding deals, because there are a lot of other platforms and places where sports cards are being bought and sold at. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, Steve.
Yeah, you mentioned card shows, and I want to touch on that. It's been a while since I have been to one myself. I will be going to one in a couple weeks, and one next month as well. And card shows are actually a great opportunity because typically, especially if it's a person that came from out of town and they brought cards with them, the last thing they want to do is haul stuff back home with them. So there's definitely deals to be had if you pop in any of these big YouTubers and watch some of their videos where they travel to go to card shows. The $5 bins is what they preach, is where all the deals are to be had. They've found a couple 101s in some of these $5 bins and stuff like that. The problem is eBay has kind of like almost a monopoly on the market. Like, it's not a full-on monopoly, but they have the largest market share as far as people selling their cards on there. But I do recommend checking out sites like Mercari. There's a lot of like overpriced items on there, but there are some diamonds in the rough, and those are the ones you're looking for anyway. Beckett Marketplace is pretty good. ComC is another one. They're kind of tied in with eBay, but definitely check out card shows. And to be honest with you, the card shows will put you in an environment where you're around other hobbyists, you're around other people that appreciate what you're doing, because they're doing the same thing, and you might find some people to trade with. You might make some friends. There's really no loss. I think that the person-to-person interaction is superior in every way.
Yeah, that's a big goal of mine for 2022. In fact, I've got plans to go to my first card show within the next month and a half. If Mike Ham is out there, I know he's going to be super excited about this because he's here in Tampa. He goes to all the shows, and we're going to do a ton of recording. And my goal, Steve and Brandon, to go into that show, guys, is like that is my goal. I'm going to bring a couple $100 cash. And my goal is to target every single sleeper skill position NFL player that I can find, the autograph cards, the rookie ticket autos, with my knowledge of what the prices are on eBay. Go in there and see who's undervaluing which players that I know are probably going to overperform, or guys that I just consider as dynasty stashes, right? In Dynasty Fantasy, because the size of the commitment you make, the length of time that you're stuck with those players. You guys also see, though, I've got pulled up here Whatnot. Like, I've heard, shout out to Derek Richard there in the chat, Whatnot, if you know how to comp cards quickly, if you know the value of cards in the back of your head of what they sell for on eBay, there's a lot of live auctions going on here. And it's just one of those things. Like, if you have, for example, a Joe Burrow Optic Holo on eBay that's getting 50 bids in any given auction, right? On here, that same card may only get, 20 bids or 15 bids because there's just not that many people on this platform. So it's kind of like less competition, right? For any given card. You never know what you're going to find if you can comp quickly. Maybe you can capitalize on some of these other platforms. I've seen deals on Mercari, like Steve said. So that's just kind of off the top of my head.
I think another big point about doing, person-to-person deals is you got to remember, like, these platforms, even my slabs, which is only like 1% to 3%, when you're dealing with someone face to face, there's no money coming out of the transaction on their end. So they might have more room to work with you, right? If you both end up a greater benefit of the transaction, then it just makes the person-to-person deal that much easier. If you watch any of these YouTubers that go to shows all the time, you'll see what I'm talking about. Negotiate. It's way easier when you're face to face with someone, versus just sending bids back and forth on eBay that somebody might get insulted by or whatever. But yeah, I've heard good things about Whatnot as well. I think that in the end, they might end up taking a big chunk of eBay's business. But right now it's still kind of like in the early stages.
Those are definitely some great options. And I will also say social media is an opportunity for you as well. If you do have a Twitter presence or an Instagram presence, even if you don't, you can hop on there. You can find a lot of folks that are selling for some decent amounts. And it's kind of like a virtual card show. If you don't have the opportunity to go to any of these shows, or maybe you're just a bit of an introvert, maybe this is a great opportunity for you to go out. You can vet people. I know that's a little more risky, but again, you will avoid a lot of those fees, a lot of that stuff. So you guys, like Steve said, can kind of come away with a little bit of a better situation. Not quite the same face-to-face, but you do save a little bit. So you're probably looking at like PayPal friends and family, which is still a fraction of what eBay is going to take away, that 12.9%. Another option for you, I know Twitter and Instagram with that can be a bit of a wild, wild west. But again, if you do your due diligence, I just had somebody reach out to me to ask if somebody that I followed was on the up and up. Absolutely they were. Happy to vouch for them. It's a neat community. And I will tell you this too, Twitter can be a violent place. Social media can be a violent place. But honest to goodness, the hobby on Twitter is probably one of the friendliest groups I have come across in my, believe it or not, 12 years of being on that platform. And for those in the chat who have, well, decent eyes, this is, of course, a virtual background. Unlike Steve and Andy, I don't really have much going on, and this is far more entertaining than what I got going on back there. So good eyes on that. And I will also say, as we continue on, this is not only our live stream. We're not just talking about eBay tips. We're not just talking about sports cards. It is also kind of an improved taste testing impromptu taste testing. As while I did challenge Steve, he didn't want any of it, and I don't blame him because this is going to be interesting. But I picked up a little bit of Flamin' Hot Mountain Dew. So we're going to find out how this is live. I'll let you know. So moving on from Honey Nut from the YouTube community page. How would you guys feel about Fanatics or Panini potentially creating an actual trading card game with its specific set where you can open packs and build your deck of players and play against other people? So similar to Top Spire, but actually playable. And I have seen something like this. I mean, it's an interesting strategy. Might get more people into the hobby. Maybe people who are kind of on the edge of that Magic the Gathering, MetaZoo tip. I know it's not going to be for everybody if they decide to come out and do something like this. But would you guys feel that like that would be a way to go from a Panini or a Fanatics standpoint, since they're taking over a large chunk of the landscape here shortly? Steve, what do you think about something like that?
You know, I think anytime you can get people to cross over into maybe a realm that they're not familiar with, there's bridges and there's ways to do that. If you look at some of the 90s metal sports cards, they had a couple where there was Marvel heroes on the cards. I don't know if you guys have seen those. I know I've linked them a couple times, but I think that anytime you can like take two genres and kind of like introduce them to each other, there's going to be some people that latch on. They're like, hey, who's that guy on my Torrey Holt, or who's that guy on my Wolverine, or whatever the case is. So I don't know about like a card game per se, but maybe like a crossover card where you compare like, Derrick Henry is Colossus from the X-Men, just like turn it into steel and running mofos over, that'd be cool, right? Or like a little scrappy dude is like Wolverine, like making comparisons to a fictitious character. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
It sounds like it could be an interesting game, which, games are fun, right? So it'd be interesting to see how they kind of put that together. I mean, I think there's a lot of intricacy and stuff. Like if you take a game that I used to play, and I think Steve, I think you dabble in this game as well, Hearthstone, where you kind of build these decks, and it's kind of based on the physical Magic the Gathering game. But if you could do that with NFL players, where you've got like this little graphic of this guy, Derrick Henry stiff arming, some other guy. I don't know. That's interesting. It's interesting. I'm not sure what they would actually do for, Fanatics in terms of actual sports card collecting and investing. I'm not sure where that fits in.
One thing that I will say, though, upcoming in Prism, and correct me if I'm wrong, are there not going to be some Marvel inserts? I remember seeing Tom Brady with an Infinity Gauntlet. That's something that possibly that could be like an insert or something like that, some manner of chase card. Again, limited print run, something like that. So it could be presented as just a great insert, something fun, but also something that could be, you'd have to workshop it a little bit, but I think you could somehow integrate something like that. Some properties like that. And I will say this too. I am hunting for that Tom Brady Infinity Gauntlet card. That is something that I'm after. What do you guys think? If you were ripping some Prism or something like that, would you find something like that, maybe numbered or even autographed? Maybe not fully playable, but maybe something like that where I don't know, almost like you see these NFTs now coming up, promising exclusive access to parties or whatever. But maybe this is something where, I don't know, just as a for instance, maybe you get a free VIP shot in the National or something like that. Again, that's just off the top of my head. But could you see something like that coming out of some sort of workshopping of this idea?
I think that I've actually considered that before too. And like, I think that the three of us would make awesome, like creative employees for Fanatics. If anyone's out there, by the way. The amount of things you can do that haven't been done yet is insane. And like you said, with the national idea, right? Like, have a redemption card for like meeting all your favorite athletes at the national, or have like, something a little more interactive. You know what I mean? It doesn't just have to be like, hey, here's this redemption for a card you may or may not get a year from now. Like, first of all, Fanatics has to get better with improving Panini's redemption turnaround time. But secondly, let's go somewhere with it. Let's do something out of the status quo. Let's have a spend a day with an athlete of your choosing within the realm of reasonability of these specific guys that we have a deal with or whatever,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, that interactivity, I think, is a great concept. And two, I mean, I know there's folks in the chat that are going to say, man, that sounds stupid. And you know what? Maybe it is, but I'll tell you this. It's a lot like when it comes to movies or television shows. I would much rather people make an effort and just have it suck out loud than keep doing reboot after reboot after reboot after reboot. Show me a little creativity. Show me you trying. What do you think, Andy? Would that be something where if you got to meet a Buccaneer or something like that, Levante David, or dare I say the GOAT, is that the kind of thing that would have you ripping some extra packs?
Yeah, that'd be pretty badass, dude. That would probably have me ripping some extra packs. I still wouldn't pay 100% markup prices for sealed wax. Especially if this is something that's going to be considered like a case hit or one out of every 400 packs. But if it was a little bit more common, yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah, I think that could definitely generate some interest. Definitely a very interesting type of card to put into product. I think that's a good idea. Hopefully Fanatics is listening.
I'm curious. Go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say, they could maybe take a lesson from the quest and, how many times have you been in a contest or a drawing? It's like they tell you that somebody won, like the lottery, right? But you never really know that anybody won. Let's go live. Let's spin the damn wheel. Let's see your name spinning around with 1,000 other people and see, like, legitimately that someone's winning this thing, right? It could just be like, insert pseudo name here so that their real identity is masked or whatever. But at least like there's a real drawing, someone's winning, and it can actually like make it more desirable to think that this is actually happening. Like, everyone plays the lotto, but they don't really know that somebody's getting the money. When's the last time you saw someone walking around with like a winning lottery ticket? But if you saw someone winning a meetup one-on-one with Tom Brady, or a first row right behind the bench, and you get to meet Tom Brady after the game, like, people would get involved with that.
Yes. Publishers Clearinghouse, show up to your house, cameras rolling, right?
You get to meet the GOAT. Congratulations. Hey, folks, I'm curious in the chat, drop who you would like to meet if you had the opportunity to pull one of these meet an athlete cards that we have so generously offered up to the hobby gods.
We already got an answer from Derek Richard. He wants to date with Zach Wilson's mother.
Zach Wilson's mother. Does that count as an athlete? Is she an athlete? She birthed an athlete. But does that count? Is that like by proxy? Technically,
you might have to win it with Zach and then have a arrangement with him.
Yeah, you could have. Hey, and who doesn't like taking their mother out to lunch? And I know she would appreciate that as well. So, folks, we're going to get into the heavy-hitting eBay, folks. We talked a little bit about it. So let's get into the weeds. So, Cody Allen, I know you're in the chat. Cody Allen wants to know from the YouTube community page, what are your favorite eBay saved searches, Andy?
Ooh. All right. Right now, I'll tell you, my number one favorite eBay save search is 2018 rookie ticket auto Russell Gage.
Ooh.
I'm absolutely become a massive fan. Obviously, I'm a Tampa Bay Buccaneer lifer, and Russell Gage is the newest wide receiver acquisition through free agency. But this is totally due to the Tom Brady effect, guys. Russell Gage has gone out and pretty much almost took on an alpha wide receiver size workload in Atlanta when Calvin Ridley was out after they parted ways with Julio Jones, and then Calvin Ridley with all of his 900 different issues. And Russell Gage actually got really good PFF grades. He actually showed that he was very good in the short and intermediate sectors of the field. Has Tom Brady ever been known to gravitate towards a receiver that's good at route running and good against man coverage in the short and intermediate sectors of the field that can play the slot anytime? I mean, right?
Can you tell our boy does his research? Seriously. I mean, this is what the channel was founded on, darn it.
And then to double down on that, you look at tradingcarddatabase.com, you look at Russell Gage on there. The man was taken so late in the draft. Don't quote me. I want to say 6th round or maybe even undrafted. So he wasn't printed in very much product. He literally only has less than a couple hundred different rookie cards as compared to the other 2018 rookies like Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, who have got several thousand, right? And so there's a very few limited selection. The rookie ticket auto, of course, what I feel is the most liquid set, like extremely desirable. And right now, like you can find those for $30, but they kind of disappear quick, or under. They disappear quick. So that's my favorite search right now.
What about you, Steve? Who do you have? Who's the hotness right now for you? Who are you getting notifications for?
I have a lot of searches. One of my favorites is just like I'll put in like Optic Downtown or something like that, because you might find one that goes under the radar for a guy that you might personally collect. Or maybe like a younger rookie. Now, typically the rookie downtowns are outrageous price-wise, unless you're going for like a Jalen Reagor or something like that. But there's guys like Walter Payton in there. In the 2021s, you can find Tua, Burrow, stuff like that. So I love looking for the downtowns. And they're not cheap, but you can get them for $175 to $300. What do you got there? How much did that one go for, Andy?
The Walter Payton downtown, I just got to say, that is a badass looking card. $280, but look at that big bear in the background flexing with all the desserts and everything.
I want some of those vanilla wafers. I don't know about you.
Dude, this card is awesome.
You know what? I love the downtowns. I think the artwork for all of them are fantastic. Just don't rip them off. I would like Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, pretty much any of them. Walter Payton, even Zach Wilson's is awesome. The artwork for those are fantastic. Me myself, as far as save searches, like I said, right now I am looking for that Alex Gordon, but let's talk a little bit towards football. Whenever it goes for save searches, anybody who knows me know I do typically look for that Levante David auto, but I am also on the hunt right now for Ndamukong Suh, maybe that rookie ticket auto. For me, I will tell you though, when I am looking to go on eBay and I'm looking to invest, I am a budget guy, so I am all about sniping. You guys talk about loving sniping. I love to snipe. I will typically go on, search for whomever is kind of in my scope at the time. Right now, KJ Hamler is one of the folks. If you're in the Patreon Discord, you will have seen that I recently got one. It was a orange laser prism for all of $3.50 shipped. It's pretty darn good. Probably easily 2-3x that, I would imagine, if Russell Wilson starts popping off and maybe throws a few his way. But I will say, if you search for whatever card you're looking at, within reason, obviously, but if you're just looking for even generic rookie ticket autos of whomever, as Carter pointed out on the last podcast, that if you can go out and you can find a rookie ticket auto of just about any half-decent player, and if you can get them for $1 or $2, the likelihood of you being able to 2 or 3x that at some point is probably pretty high if you can afford it. But to the point, I will go and I will search for what the heck ever card. I will take the price down to $5. I will look at auctions ending soonest, and I will look for the ones that are ending usually between 11 p.m. at the absolute earliest, if not midnight, and about 7 to 9 in the morning. That is, I find, the best opportunity, especially during the week. This can be done on a Saturday or Sunday, but your opportunities are going to be a little more limited. And I will say, typically for folks who do end their auctions on a Saturday or Sunday, they're usually pretty wise to it, and they're going to end it a little bit later in the day, because that's where you're obviously going to see the larger endings of the auctions come in. But I will say, if you go down to that 5, 10, whatever is within your budget, kind of, towards the change your part, you find in the couch, what have you. And then you go in, put it to that point, $5-10, look on auctions, ending soonest, and then you can just go through, bang, 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 any that happen to catch your eye. And there may be some, honestly, that are sinfully cheap. And as they pop up, whether it's 24 hours, and you can go through, whether it's 24 hours, you say, oh, that's too much. And it gets within 15 minutes, oh, that's too much. It's easy to just pop through there and find some very good deals. I have gotten a lot of Josh Palmer on the cheap. Obviously, with the folks coming back on the charges that they are, he might be sleeping a little bit, but did get some Benjamin during an eBay sniper article of Andy's that came out. Just, again, dirt cheap, rookie ticket auto. I got a Stephon Diggs rookie for, gosh, I want to say it was like $425, a rated rookie for like $425. So yeah, if you have the option to go in there and look for dirt cheap, extremely late, and you're able to wake up, have your cup of coffee or whatever you will, and check in there, yeah, absolutely, that is a way to go. By the way, for those of you curious, all 2 of you, the Flamin' Hot Mountain Dew, not too shabby. It's kind of citrusy with a little bit of an actual kick. If you're a big fan of like, what are those, cinnamon red hots? Just kind of that spicier candy, you'll be a fan of this. Definitely waiting for the zero sugar though myself, as this does have 73 grams of sugar. So there you go, 280 calories. If you're interested, don't know that I'm going to finish that, but at least
I hope you're not diabetic.
I am not.
Not yet. Right?
Not yet. Anyway, so something similar to this, James88. Sorry, Jason88 from our Patreon Discord. Any personal tips, tricks, and saved searches to find those sweet snipe opportunities that you're willing to share? One of James's favorites, though, when comping any card, always scroll through the results matching fewer options to see what deals eBay's algorithm displays for similar cards. And that is a great suggestion. I know Andy has talked about this a little bit, but if you go in and you look for misspellings of whomever's name, I can't tell you how many awesome opportunities that I found for a guy like T. Higgins, just because they put one G, accidentally put an extra one, just some weird mistake that can end up in some fantastic deals for you. So misspellings are great. What about you, Steve? Is there any other little tips and trips aside from the other options, or sitting in the corner at 4 a.m. waiting to snipe the darn thing like I do from time to time?
Well, first I'll follow up on what you had previously said here. It's interesting because, if you're going back to saved search, you might have rookie ticket auto as a search, right? So the problem with that is that when people mislist a card, they might not write contenders rookie ticket auto. They just might write contenders auto. They might write rookie auto. They might write nothing, just the player's name in auto or whatever. So when you get down to that similar results, but not matching, exclusively, you might have another 100 listings and you'll find other rookie ticket autos in there of the exact card you were looking for. And sometimes there's less eyes on them. And that's where you find your deals, because let's be honest, if people are having a harder time finding your card, not selling it for as much typically, right? You get more people in on an auction, you have more competition. More bids equals a higher sale price. So that's where the deals are to be had. So 2 lessons to learn from this: list your cards properly. And second of all, look for those deals with the misspellings and when you go further down. Another thing is, you might find cards also from that set, whether you look up like Optic Hollow or you might look up Prism Orange or whatever the case is. When you go down, you might find cards from that player that you looked up. You might find also other cards of that same parallel that you're like, oh, well, look at that deal. There's a Stephon Diggs. Even though I was looking for a Justin Jefferson, I'd take the Stephon Diggs for $10 less. You know what I mean? So that's a huge one. I use that all the time. I talk to, you guys about that one all the time. I definitely would recommend spending just a little extra time. Scroll further down. And one last thing on that topic, when you're looking for a specific card, let's say you're willing to pay $20 for that Russell Gage rookie ticket auto, Andy. You scroll down, and you're like, man, I'm already at 35. Should I keep scrolling? Yes. And here's why. Because eventually you might find one that's listed at 40 as a buy it now with a make an offer button, right? That the 35 with no buy it now button or make an offer button, you may not be able to negotiate down. Or you might find a listing for 50 and the guy's selling 2 cards. So that averages out to 25 a piece. So don't just say like, hey, I've hit 30. I'm not going to keep scrolling. Like the deals to be had beyond that would blow you away sometimes.
Greg, I see you in the chat. GBR, go big red. Absolutely. And believe you me, bud, I am looking for Rex Burkhead, Stanley Morgan Jr., all of the boys that we have seen down in Lincoln. You've got representation, my friend. Andy, what other tips and tricks do you have for the audience?
I love that. Scroll down till you get past those, results with matching fewer words and what have you, and the misspellings and all that kind of stuff. Because you got to look, and then like if you find a card that's got one deal, like dig into that guy's store, like start digging into the store, because there's a chance he's just undervaluing football players as a whole because he's a baseball card guy, basketball, what have you. So that's the thing. I'm always like big like. I would love to, just a little side quest here in tonight's live stream, talk about Debo Samuel. That would be fun. But that's like my other thing, right? Whenever I'm onto a player, because I just did a bunch of research on a player, and I want to go comp his cards out across the rest of his class, like the 2019 class, for example, with Debo Samuel, and see what a AJ Brown's going for, see what a Terry McLaurin's going for, and to get an idea of where Debo's at, and kind of, with the understanding of his floor and his ceiling, like maybe go look at guys like Tony Pollard, TJ Hawkinson, some other guys that are lower down the totem pole in 2019, and then guys that are higher up the totem pole in 2019 to give yourself an idea where that's at. That's probably my best tips on, finding good deals. And then always like rookie year of the player, auto, player name, auto, that kind of thing. And then just keep scrolling from there. Just keep digging, man.
So let's talk about Elijah's question. Andy, right on the spot. How do you think Brandon Ayuk stocks will go up with Debo possibly leaving?
I don't think Debo's leaving. I think Debo wants to leave, and it may turn into a holdout type of scenario. But my other thought is like, where is Debo going to go that he's going to get the amount of carries that he got last year in San Francisco? He got over 100 carries last year. He was actually outside of the top 20 in wide receiver statistics. The reason why he was a top 3 fantasy wide receiver was because he got over 100 carries and was actually an elite rusher. But that's because San Francisco got riddled with injuries and had to turn to a 6th-round draft pick in Elijah Mitchell. So they had this, bona fide asset in Debo Samuel, and I get it. That's why Debo wants out. He's like, Kyle Shanahan's running me into the ground with all these carries and receiving. Like, there's probably very few, if any, other teams in the NFL that are going to use Debo Samuel in that way. And that's probably why he wants out, to elongate his career, right? But I don't think he's going to get out that easily. And if he gets out at all. What's your thoughts, Steve?
I don't think it's, I've heard a lot of speculation on this issue, and I don't think it's that he doesn't necessarily want to take those open field hits as a running back. I think that he feels that he's doing 2 jobs and he should be paid as such. And I agree. He's risking taking years off of his career, putting himself on a running back age apex, not a receiving one. But here's a hot take. And, we've talked about this before. I think he's going to Green Bay.
Oh, snap.
I think I've been saying that for a couple weeks now. It's on the record in case anyone wants to go back and look. I think he's going to go to Green Bay. And if you look, there's some deals that make sense. Okay. Let's say he goes to Green Bay. This is all hypothetical. But if he does, will he have a job to run the ball? And I think he will, because what's something that both of the teams could benefit from if he were to go to Green Bay? Well, Green Bay could get rid of some of their contract in Aaron Jones and send him to the Niners. And then you have Debo and A.J. Dillon backfield and you still leave the 49ers with a competitive team. They don't have what's his name? Elijah Moore is good, but now you have a two-headed monster and Jimmy G, and that's really all they need to win over there.
I think part of that too, you mentioned elongating the career, and you're right. As a running back, you're going to take more hits, but then you say running back and wide receiver. I mean, that's tough. And I think Debo wants to be paid as a wide receiver, not as somebody that's taken a bunch of licks. So I'm curious if this isn't a little bit of political maneuvering on his part to basically say
so. He's taking a play out of the Kyler Murray playbook. You know, it's a lot of this is how these young guys are negotiating their contract extensions nowadays. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets extended in San Fran on a bigger contract. But the whole question is still there around the quarterback. Right now, I don't feel comfortable investing in Ayuk for 2022. I just don't.
And I'll say too, I think kind of continuing on is as far as him wanting to get treated as a wide receiver, to get paid like a wide receiver. Yeah, I think he might be using this opportunity to basically say, hey, I'm cool with sticking in town, maybe with a little bit of a raise, but just don't run me at everybody as much as possible. Because like you were saying, Andy, you were right. I don't play a heck of a lot of fantasy football, but I can understand where you're coming from. I believe there was a point where he was getting about 110 yards from scrimmage per game. So the guy's a baller as far as an athlete. I saw the guy, myself, even before he jumped to San Fran. Even before he got drafted to San Fran 49ers. So yeah, I understand he's got that athleticism, but yeah, as a guy, we've seen even Derrick Henry, who is a hoss. Over time, running backs do take quite a bit of punishment, especially as athletes in the NFL have gotten bigger.
I like Steve's little trade though that he threw out there, man. Kind of galaxy brained it a little bit, but dude, Aaron Jones would fit perfectly into the Kyle Shanahan stretch gap run zone offense that he likes to run. Aaron Jones would hit those runs perfectly, and that would give them depth on top of Elijah Mitchell and Trey Sermon and Kyle Juszczyk or whoever else they've got now in the backfield back there. But I mean, Debo Samuel to Green Bay, very, very interesting. I can maybe see them. Maybe if the draft starts out, and I don't know, depending on how the draft unfolds, right? You have Green Bay picking at number 22. So if they do I don't know, maybe we see a trade unfold on draft night. Maybe Green Bay trades away number 22 and Aaron Jones for Debo Samuel. Maybe something like that. Maybe another pick. I don't know. That's interesting. But Aaron Jones is an aging asset. And A.J. Dillon was creeping up on the targets, is creeping up on the carries and showing to be just as efficient, if not more efficient than Aaron Jones. Like, why would you not go ahead and trade that in for a guy that is 4 years younger than Aaron Jones, and obviously never skips leg day? Like, the dude's twice as thick as Aaron Jones as well. Nothing against Aaron Jones. He's electric. He fit perfectly. You're right, though. He fit perfectly into that Kyle Shanahan offense. That's interesting, man. There's
one aspect of that suspicion of mine as well that seems to make a lot of sense. Debo has said he doesn't want to be there. It wasn't even about like, hey, I don't want to do two jobs. Like, he just sounds like he doesn't want to be there. And the other thing to really think about that no one even really took a second look at is Rodgers lost Devontae Adams. He didn't even bat an eye, right? Did you hear him complain? Did you hear him have like any, I didn't see this coming? I think when he re-signed that he kind of knew that Devontae Adams wasn't going to be there. So he must know that they have something up their sleeves that they haven't really talked about yet. So I would be confident. I'm not 100% this is going to happen, but they're going to make a big move because they have a 3-year window to win, and the NFC is pretty much theirs at this point. Maybe Tampa and them,
I'm curious to see if, in fact, Chris Olave from Ohio State does drop that far. I doubt he does, but if he does, watch him come off the board real quick if he's available and Green Bay is on the clock. By the way,
there seems to be a lot of really interesting wide receiver talent in this draft. Brandon and Steve, and that's what I think is so interesting. Like, Green Bay definitely has a plan. At the worst case scenario, they're drafting a wide receiver right at pick number 22. I think there's going to be some pretty good talent left for them. Now, if wide receivers start falling early and these quarterbacks start falling later, obviously that's going to put more pressure because obviously the Jets have screamed that they're in a market for a wide receiver. You've got other teams that are in the Falcons. The Falcons pick at number 8. They're definitely in the market for a wide receiver, but those teams also have big question marks on their defense. So it's like there's some really good talent on the defensive side as well, on the edge and in the secondary. Do they go there? Do they go wide receiver? And then Green Bay's sitting there by the phone, basically like, kind of trying to plan out that move on the fly. So it could be some really interesting moves and trades happening draft night, which is like super exciting, right? We all love to see that stuff.
We do. And Andy, put this up here. We've got a great tip on the fly in the chat from James Wainwright. Another tip I just thought of: never pay immediately after you win a card. Go into the seller's other cards for a sale, sort by ending soonest, and see if there are any cards you can bundle to save. Now, that is a great strategy. That is a great strategy. I will say, though, some folks do request that you pay immediately if you are going to buy it now. But that's a great situation. Like if it's an auction or something like that, that's a great tip. If you don't have to pay immediately, great opportunity for you to. I
turn that on now for all my listings. Buy it now. Require immediate payment. But the thing is, like, if I notice it's the same seller, like as the same buyer, as the seller, I will proactively reach out to them and say, and if it's the same buyer, same address, like, look, let's consolidate the shipping here. I'll refund you the shipping from this one, etc. It saves them. Maybe if it's under $20, then I can only consolidate so much, but I got to put it in another envelope. But that shipping's already super cheap there in the first place. But if it's a padded envelope, bubble mailer with tracking, I could save them, $10-15. Hey, buy some more cards, man. I'll give you a 10% discount. Like, start working with those guys in the messages.
That's the interesting thing is, when you bundle cards for someone, they're getting something for the money, right? When they pay $4 for shipping, $5 for shipping for one card, there's not a lot of value in that. But if they're paying $5 for shipping for 5 cards, not only is that helping you make more sales, but now they're only paying $1 shipping per card, essentially, which is way better. You know what I mean? And it does pretty much work exclusively for auctions. If there's a seller that has buy it now, multiple buy it nows that you're interested in, you could always contact them and be like, I'm interested in these 2 cards. Will you do them for this price, right? And they can send you up a private listing, and they could bundle the cards for you or whatever. So there's definitely a lot of options there. I agree.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I will say too, folks, another tip I would give you is whether it's eBay, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Instagram, whatever, if there's a person on there selling multiple cards, treat it like one big card show and reach out to the person and say, hey, I'm interested in this, this, and this. I see you've got it listed for this. Will you do X? Will you, try to work with them, try to pretend you're face to face. Now, obviously you're not, and they may say some unfortunate things, but reach out, because the worst they can say is no. Well, I guess technically that's not the worst they can say. But so we got quite a bit of knowledge on that particular one. And that again, great knowledge. And you will find even more knowledge like that in our Discord. For those of you not in the Discord, the link to our Patreon is in the description. We would love to see you in there. Again, tons of knowledgeable folks, great community, giveaways, behind the scenes stuff, sniper articles from Mr. Kaysen over there. And of course, the Discord, all for the price of a single McDonald's combo meal. So moving along, we've got one from Chris Lundberg from the YouTube channel. Could you give your opinion on raw cards in regards to flawless, national treasures, immaculate, encased, etc.? Any higher end favorites or brands you would avoid? Just to note, folks, we did talk about, or Andy did, not we, talked about sets to avoid when investing. We do have a video coming up here about which you want to keep your eyes out for. So with that being said, Steve, the higher end stuff, the flawless, the national treasures, the immaculates, anything that you're looking out there in particular?
For most people, those cards are a little bit on the fringe as far as price range goes. You can find some of the base stuff or the higher serial numbered or patch stuff for a reasonable price. But, if you're talking about like a Prism auto versus like a flawless auto of a rookie, the price difference is quite a bit higher, right? So, it is a different level of play. Now, if you do end up with a card that was, let's say, a redemption and is already encased from Panini, then you're good, man. You don't have to worry about any of that extra stuff because there's no true version of raw version of that card. Like if it's sent out, it's sent in protection already. But I'm okay with raw cards in general as a blanket statement. Just be diligent in what you're buying. Look over the listing. If you follow hundreds of listings a night like I do, you're not going to be able to pick them over with a fine-tooth comb. But when you do get down to the last couple minutes and you're considering bidding on a card, check the corners, check the centering, check the surface, all the obvious stuff. Make sure the auto is not smeared if it's got an auto, stuff like that. But I mean, I would use the same strategy with the any set as well as the high-end sets. And the thing with the high-end sets too is, they're going to have the greater desirability. So if you can find them raw and you can find them, on the cheap, grab them up. Raw is fine.
Steve knows what he's talking about too. For those of you already in the Discord, if you're in the eBay Sniper channel, Steve lives in there. So if you haven't seen it, you got to get in there. And two, he hits me up as well. He knows what I like in terms of players cards. I'm like, he will hit me up middle of the night. It's very impressive. I appreciate
it. It is the unspoken free perk of the channel. I'm in there always sharing stuff. So.
He well worth the price alone for Steve's ability to search through cards there. Andy, what about you for the higher stuff? Anything that you would recommend personally, or what's your thought about the higher end stuff with regards to investing?
Guys, I'm raw dogging it all day long, man. The raw cards are, for the most part, where it's at for me. Of course, if a deal is too good to pass up on a 10 that's out there or a 9.5, and it's a rare card that I know, I'm already looking to target that player and that card specifically before I'm looking at the grade, then the deal's right. I'll go ahead and capitalize on that. But most cases, like raw is the way to go because you can find these cards, especially more rare ones like Flawless, like we're talking some cards that have emeralds, diamonds, rubies built into them that you can find that are going for less than what that gemstone in the card is worth. And so, regardless of the player on the card, if you can get that card for just a few dollars in an auction because some knucklehead decided to end it during the week when nobody's paying attention, or it's a player that just is not being, followed. Of course, Flawless, National Treasures, those are like cream of the crop, premium brand cards that are virtually all numbered like less than 99. Flawless is like 25 and 10 and less, so those two off the bat are like primo. But then like you look at Immaculate and you look at rookie ticket autos, the contender rookie ticket autos, and you look at some of these other high-end sets like Obsidian and Origins, and I know there's a couple more that I'm not thinking off the top of my head right now. But those like the Optic autos, the Optic on card autos, the Prism autos, those cards tend to have the same amount of ROI, the same amount of percentage increase when that player breaks out or they have the big news, the team changes, blah, 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 the same scarcity. Those tend to have the same increase. And the raw, if you look at the percentage of raw, I've seen this time and time again, the percentage of increase on the raw is just as good as the percentage of increase on the PSA 10. Given the same card, it's just dealing with lower dollar values. And then I agree here with someone, Adrian, right here. Shout out to Adrian McEldry, because raw cards are always going to be viable because that's where people find the gems that they can potentially submit and get a 10 on. Because I think grading is still a big thing. Like that's another thing that Brandon didn't even mention. We're doing a CSG group submission through the Discord this summer. Very excited about that. And with that $12 per label CSG, with everything they got going on, intertwined with eBay, intertwined with the hobby, like mainstream, new labels, the 10s, like it's exciting, man. I think there's a lot of money to be made there.
It's very exciting. And we see Cody Allen in the chat, got a question in. Officially in the Discord Patreon as of today. Welcome, my friend. Happy to have you. Love to see you in the Discord. Can't wait to talk with you. I will also say when it comes to that sort of thing, when it comes to raw versus graded and that kind of thing, raw is definitely the way to go. Unless you're doing like PC stuff, then you can go out and you could get an 8.5 or a 9, as folks are only really 10 hunting. And Andy actually put out a video a while back about why you should be looking for less than perfect cards. PSA 9s are just an absolute steal as opposed to a 10 right now. folks are not giving it any love. And as you've mentioned, Andy, on a number of occasions, you can go out and get those slabbed up cards for just about the same as raw. And so you can also boast that fact that they are encased already. So that's a nice little feature. Might be a little bit more expensive, but it's a nice little feature that you can put along there as well.
Yeah, I value that. Like I've seen it a couple times. Like I was recently looking for like Kyler Murray, for example, and like in his PSA 10 Prism was only going for like $30 more than the raw. Like if that's the case, then yeah, why flip the coin with only a 50% chance of that raw card getting a 10, and you just went ahead and for $30 more guaranteed yourself the 10. In that kind of situation, you kind of balance out how much it costs to get the card graded and your chance of getting the 10, and then what's the raw one going for, or what's the graded one going for, I should say, and then then you buy the graded one.
And I will say too, on the higher end stuff, I enjoy it. Like they look great. I don't think you can argue that. But even as somebody who enjoys college uniforms, even as somebody who PCs defensive players, like that's an interesting cross section. And both me and Carter happen to enjoy that. But even that on the higher end, it's not cheap. And honestly, unless I just find some absolute insane mistake, the juice isn't worth the squeeze there for me. I'm sorry, Steve, did you have another point you wanted to add here?
You guys both kind of equally touched on it, but I just want to add just a hair more on it. If you're buying a card, like you have a display or you want to make a display like Andy's got behind him, you don't really need a 10, right? Like if you're gonna get a 10, it's a maybe like one guy you really collect and you just want 110 of his rookie ticket auto, whatever. Then you maybe shop for a couple raw cards, find a good one, send it in. But if you're just looking to encase some of your personal collection to display it, and you don't own the card yet, it's probably cheaper to find one in a slab already, almost 100% certainty, depending on the value of the card. So, Andy did that deep dive recently where he was showing that, some of the cards in 8 and 9 slabs are selling for basically just the same price as raw. That being said, if you were buying a card to display in your personal collection, why wouldn't you buy it slabbed already? Because in a perfect world where you send a single card into SGC, you're paying $30, and then you're paying $15 for them to send it back to you. So you're at $45. So if you can get this, let's say a $30 card encased in an SGC slab, you're way ahead of the game already.
Absolutely. So I already see a couple of folks chiming in the chat on the raw versus graded debate. Let's make it official. Everybody in the chat, let's hear it. Raw versus graded. Let me know in the chat below. And as you are doing that, we move on to the next question from Mark Speltz from the YouTube channel. He's put in a number of questions here over there on the YouTube community page. Thoughts on cards at card shows that are not marked? Not even so much as this box $1, no price indicated at all. I tend to get annoyed and walk away. I prefer to see prices up front and then deal from there. Maybe I'm missing out on deals. Do these sellers usually offer good deals? So the folks that don't even price the things, worth it or not? Steve, what do you think of this situation?
I think you have to have prices. There's a few reasons why I'll say that. So in two instances, one, let's say they have like a $5 bin or a $10 bin or a half off bin, right? You want the simplicity of going in the bin and being like, the label says 10, now I know it's 5, right? There's no awkward negotiating or whatever the case is. And for the case of raw singles or graded singles that might be inside someone's case, you do have people of all different varieties that go to these shows. Some might be introverted, some might be extroverted, some might be non-confrontational. If it's marked, you've already done a lot of the introduction between you and that person. You could be like, hey, I see you're at 325. Would you be able to do 275? Versus there's no price on it. Be like, how much room do you have on that card? What's your price? Then you're opening up whole different levels of conversation, which you don't need to have. You can get right to the point and be like, this is kind of what we're starting at negotiation wise. And then you can kind of work from there.
Yeah, I kind of I like this. All right, so I've watched a lot of like American pickers and the Cincinnati picker on YouTube, and he's got this golden tactic. Anytime he goes to whether it's a show or a garage sale or anything, these guys go there, and some obviously a lot of the stuff they're looking at doesn't have prices on it. Their first thing is, how much do you want for this? And because that's like the golden negotiation tactic. And I kind of like it when sellers don't have their stuff have a price listed on it, because then I go, hey, how much do you want for this? And then put the ball in their court. And depending on what they say, like you can then wiggle them down very easily, because you can gauge their confidence in the price that they give you. You know, like you can read their body language and read how confident they are in telling you, hey, yeah, I think I want $100 for that. And you go, ooh, 100 for this? I could give you 60. And then they're like, well, what about, 75? And you can really, gauge someone's confidence in their body language. And I think that's like a really good way to get a good deal on cards.
I have no doubt too in that situation. Andy's there with his phone saying, well, eBay says it's $75 and you want 90. I can totally see that happening. Has that ever happened to you, Andy, where you're just like, eBay says?
I'm hoping it happens soon. Like I haven't.
That's right. You got that.
I have not been to a card show since I was a kid. But I cannot wait, man. I'm chomping at the bits, dude. I'm gonna record it all too. So
good. Put a GoPro on your head.
I'm gonna bring like extra hard drives. We're gonna max out the recording. We're gonna have some fun, man.
Absolutely. So Steeler 96 is in the chat. Let's take a question from Steeler. This is directly from the Patreon and Discord. Andy, just shooting this right to you. Obviously, Steve, want to get your take as well. I would like to know what you think about James Washington getting a chance to start for the Dallas Cowboys.
I had a feeling Steeler was going to bring this up, right? Mm-hmm. Because James Washington was on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And what's interesting about James Washington, he's got draft pedigree. He's not that old. Like, he's only 26 years old, and he was drafted in the second round from Oklahoma State. So pretty well-known college as well. And he had a 94th percentile college yards per reception. That's 20 yards per reception in college. Now, he doesn't have the greatest athletic profile, like ran a 4.54 in his pro day. He's only 5'11", 213, so he doesn't have that size. But Dallas Cowboys, the biggest market in the NFL, only 26 years old. We've yet to see CeeDee Lamb really take that alpha dominant role in his offense. Michael Gallup has probably not going to be ready to start the season. He's very good, but he's struggled with injuries. He's probably not going to be ready. I think James Washington's role in the Dallas Cowboys offense is very interesting. I think he could definitely come out of the gates in September, have a 3 or 4 touchdown game, and people are like, holy crap, and the fact that he's only 26, with the market size, the fan base of the Dallas Cowboys, there could be some hype around him in September. I mean, the dude broke out at 18 from Oklahoma State. So college measurables, college resume, very good. I think he's a very interesting proposition. And the fact that he was drafted in the second round, the draft pedigree, he's going to get a shot in Dallas.
What do you have to say about this, Steve?
Yeah, I think Andy's on point with that. If there's any injuries to start the season and he slots in at number 2, he could, establish value for himself early on in the year. I mean, even if he's the 4th option in the passing game, this is a league where Dak's going to hypothetically throw for 4,500 yards this year. So, you're talking about a guy that's going to have still a large target share in a bunch of shootout games. I think that he's probably being slept on. I mean, he did have a pretty good year under Big Ben about 3 years ago. They've been kind of subpar since then, but he's playing in a much improved offense compared to any offense he's been on previously. So he could very well be a sneaky play.
Yeah, and think about it. I mean, Michael Gallup doesn't start the season. It's kind of like my thought behind Russell Gage, right? Chris Godwin's not going to start the season there, and I think maybe a lot of people aren't realizing that, and that's why these guys' stock isn't immediately jumping up, right? So the waters are kind of muddy. Plus, we got the draft, and it's we don't know, who's going to draft maybe a wide receiver, that kind of thing, the back end of the first round. But it very well could be James Washington coming out, starting in 2 and 3 wide receiver sets in September, and all of a sudden he has a big game, and people go nuts for his cards, at least in that specific moment that week. Dallas Cowboys, they're in a weak division. They're going to be in the playoffs. I mean, the Giants, almost the Redskins, the Commanders, and the Eagles. I think the Dallas Cowboys are almost guaranteed. They're in my category of where I can't say fathom, but I can almost.
You said fathom on the podcast Just
I
yesterday,
cannot-
you
I'm
can
gonna
say
go ahead.
Fathom. I've heard you do it.
I'm going to go ahead and say fathom. I cannot fathom the Dallas Cowboys not being in the playoffs either. I just can't fathom it, man.
You know,
we day calendar.
We
Go ahead,
kind of
Steve.
touched on this a couple weeks ago, and I agree with Derek in the chat. And I still believe that the largest, benefactor of targets being allotted is Tony Pollard. I think that he gets used a lot more in the receiving game. This isn't something that's like not being done anymore. Like, in fact, running backs are now being used more in the receiving game, like actually lining up as receivers versus just receiving out of the backfield. Like, you're seeing the league slowly change, the way the backfield operates. And I think that he'll probably get, most of the benefit of, the target shares. I think CeeDee Lamb is being a bit overdrafted. I don't see him as like an elite one yet. He may be a better second receiver on your fantasy teams. But getting back to the James Washington thing, like, he'll probably have career-wise his best numbers. I don't think that puts him in like the must-buy category, but he'll probably have, 800 plus yards, pending any injuries, of course.
Well, my thing is, like, I want pieces of that offense, like, because I know that they're a playoff team and I know they've got the largest fan base and market size in the NFL. Like, I want pieces. I want Dalton Schultz. Like, I see the Dalton Schultz love in the chat, man. I love me some Dalton Schultz too, especially at his current prices. I mean, the guy had almost 1,000 receiving yards last year, so I want some Dalton Schultz. I want Pollard. Like, I want anybody who's underpriced when I comp them out to peers in their class. I want those guys. So the only guy I'm really, I guess, not buying at the moment is CeeDee Lamb, because I do kind of agree with you that he hasn't proven the capital that he is demanding right now in the market. And I think that you could spend your money better, like on Dak, on Tony Pollard, on Dalton Schultz, on James Washington. Yeah, so there's some interesting options there.
Folks in the chat, I'm curious who you guys are buying and selling right now. Go ahead and drop in there. Let me know who you've got your eye on, who you're getting rid of, all that good stuff. We got a couple more questions here. Ryan J from the YouTube channel, from the community page. We've talked a little bit about collecting this evening. This is a great opportunity to kind of go in that a little bit more, and grading. So we hit on both of those. So Ryan J wants to know, I've got a Dan Marino rookie. I've had ever since I was a kid, top loaded since day one. Not sure who to send it into though. So I am going to pick up this ball real quick to run with this one. I will say this, personal opinion. I love SGC's slab. It's very classy. I love the actual label. I will argue the best label in the game today. Hot take there. I know there's a lot of BGS love out there. But again, SGC for me, that is where I send my stuff, my PC stuff specifically. I will say though, I just get this right out of the way. If you are looking to resell PSA, they have the market far away. I mean, that's just the way it is. You get a good card, send it in 21 days, PSA, be done with it. But when it comes to other stuff, when it comes to your PC stuff, your Dan Marino that you've had since day one, I say SGC all the way. So that being said, Steve, what do you think? If you've got a card that you've PC'd, what group are you going to be sending it into? I assume not HGA at this point.
I mean, I don't have any problem with HGA. I know that there's been some speculation about them recently. I know that they're taking about 3 weeks hiatus till they start accepting card submissions again. I have no problem with HGA. In fact, I'm willing to give them a chance in the near future, when they start taking cards in again. But I was going to say SGC as well. I love the tuxedo look. I do. And SGC has a reputation for vintage cards. So in pertaining to the question with an elder card like Dan Marino, definitely I like SGC. You don't have any conflict of color match schemes, which is a big thing that people have with PSA. You have a red and white slab. If you have an all blue card, it kind of clashes with it. Black and white, you can't clash with black and white, right? If you're PCing a Raiders card, I mean, it's a color match slab, right? If you're PCing anybody with a black or a white uniform or a gray uniform, the slab's a color match. So it's very neutral. And the fact that SGC is not only taking a large market share away from both PSA and Beckett, which seems to be fading into obscurity quickly, SGC just seems like the way to go.
The price point is too good. I mean, especially if you're going to send multiple cards in, the price point's just too good. I mean, $30. folks, don't be scared. You can prep your cards yourself. I, an idiot, will will attest to that. I've got an SGC Gem Mint 10 Justin Herbert sitting right up here. It's my very first card I sent in, so I can attest you will do just fine. Carl in the chat says, I like PSA because they have a RESTful interface. You can use a URL to directly link to your card's pop report. Other companies require logins, captchas, and other crap. And indeed they do. You know, one thing that PSA has that I honestly enjoy, and again, I'm a simple-minded individual, they have, I believe, like a Domino's pizza tracker where you can see where your card's at. With SGC, I do enjoy that, but of course there's the kind of wait between then and when your seller-ready image, that crisp high-res image pops. Although, it's kind of like waiting for Santa Claus to come down the chimney. There's that element to it. But that being said, Andy, I know you've sent a number of your cards to different companies. You gifted me a lovely Levante David card that was, I want to say, what was it, PGX? Remind me which one that was.
PGX, yeah, pure grade X. That's the thing, man. If it's all about personal collection and you really not like ever intending on reselling it, and you don't care about the necessary investment value behind it, and then shoot, send it, try a variety of these guys out. You could probably get the card graded for less than $10. And ultimately, for me, like when it comes to investment purposes, a lot of what I'm doing, I'm sticking to it. I've seen the math time and time again, like we talk about buy raw, sell raw. But if I do see some cards that I know like are either really rare or elite player, and the price point, the turnaround time is right, that's my difficulty with PSA. I'm not sure that their pop report not being behind like a login or a capture or whatever the case may be is that big of a deal, especially for me, because like I'm more concerned about like taking advantage of an off hype cycle window. Like we're getting ready to come into one here in like May, June. But then come July and August, like I want to have those cards back in hand, listed, ready to go. So with PSA, like how much money am I going to be spending to do that? And then is that ever going to turn around, like be worth it? I'd have to get a 10. If I don't get a 10, it's absolutely not worth my time or my money. And you know what I'm saying? And you run all those risks. So it's like, but if I can get a card graded with a reputable company, decent turnaround times for 30, 20, maybe even $12 per card, and they've got the reputation, they've got the backing with the paper and coin, I'm talking about CSG, then it's like, okay, now I'm okay getting a 9 because I only spent $12 on that card to get it graded, and I got it back before the next hype cycle started. So it's, you know what I'm saying? So it's like you're kind of, you got to kind of hedge your bets in that scenario. I think when it comes to grading, especially, you know, if you want to capitalize and sell at the peak.
Absolutely. And, you know, again, I would say too, SGC, not the easiest grade in the whole wide world, but yeah, like Steve was saying, pops with the number of cards, pops with anything silver, anything prism. Can't go wrong with it. And I will say too, personally, especially being newer into the hobby at this level, about a year back into it, I tend to go with the tried and true. But Andy makes a great point. If you're just looking for, I know there's some color matches when you want to do that, regardless of the slab. Like I believe PGX does that, where you can kind of, you know, kind of match the slab and the label up to the card, which I love personally. That's a great option, especially for an inexpensive size. So a lot of options there for personal collection. You got the SGC shill in me, myself, and I. Eddie obviously wants you to shop around. I do too, genuinely. But I would say definitely do research on that. But as Andy put out, a number of options for you for your PC. Basically, just do your due diligence and see what you like, and then run with that. So we've got Reed Ball from last week's market reaction video, which I will put in the description below, by the way. There seems to be some hype around Earnest Johnson after he hired a new agent. What are your thoughts on that, Andy?
Earnest Johnson, man, the Thursday night wonder, dude, from last year. I mean, broke out all over the place, but it's the thing. It was an undrafted dude, had very limited printed cards. You basically are looking at the rookie ticket auto, you know, as being like the only card to really invest in of him. And that's perfect because it like takes it back to how it was in the 80s and early 90s, where is either you invested in that player and you got that one card or you didn't, you know? And look, the thing is like Earnest Johnson, like not a great athletic profile, but he's shifty, man. He's shifty, and behind a elite offensive line with the Cleveland Browns, if Nick Chubb goes down, if they get rid of Kareem Hunt or whatever happens there, like all of a sudden, Ernest Johnson is a very viable starter, and he could fill in. And with the scarcity around his rookie cards, I mean, I could see the reason why the hype is picking up. The guy is he's a gamer, man. He's a gamer. He's very competitive, and you could tell he's like working with that chip on his shoulder, and he wants to go out and prove himself, and he's going to take advantage of every opportunity he gets. And behind a great offensive line, that's a guy that can put up some pretty big highlights.
I think the new agent adds a little intrigue, maybe even makes me think that he's going to get traded, because new agent means what? He wants money, right?
Yeah, indeed.
Or he wants something. He wants more playing time. And does he deserve both of those? Probably. But if we're looking at the Browns situation, they just gave their quarterback a lot of money. They have Mayfield, who they have to move because he's dead money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would they save more money by trading Kareem Hunt? Yes. However, Kareem Hunt is harder to trade because he does come with some
baggage,
red in his ledger, if you will. And there's organizations that don't want that. So you may be better off holding on to him or releasing him, in which case, Ernest Johnson moves up the depth chart, or you just trade Ernest Johnson rather than paying the man, which they can't do. I don't think if they wanted to at this point. Gives him an opportunity to start somewhere. And then his, rookie ticket auto monsoon that we saw, many Thursday nights ago suddenly doesn't seem that crazy if he gets an opportunity to start somewhere. And there's plenty of teams around the league where I could argue that he could start at running back, right?
Yeah, Cleveland doesn't especially seem that off-put by any baggage one might have. But that being said, again, we'll be dropping that info about the Bowman U break on the community page tomorrow. Patreon link in the description if you want to help support the channel and get everything that the Discord server has to offer. Don't miss a step on the quest by hitting that subscribe button and the notification bell icon right now. And if you love the stream, as we all did, we love you, give us some love by mashing that like button right now so YouTube knows we bring the heat all day, every day. Folks, this has been fantastic. Andy, Steve, this has been wonderful. I appreciate it as always.
Yes, sir. Always look forward to my Thursdays with you guys.
Absolutely. Andy, thank you for having me. I hope to do this again.
Oh, man. It's been a blast, man. It's been a blast. I can't wait next week, draft week. Man, we are doing so much research and work behind the scenes, guys. We've got some really fun content coming down the line. Yes, Carl, we did make videos on which grading companies use. Check it out, man. It's actually been the most popular video I put out lately. Got CG in there and everything, man. It's fun.
He does. Yep. Next week's going to be great. We've got the break. We've got the draft. We've got so much. Looking forward to interacting with all of you. Again, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a great night.
Peace, y'all. Oh, yeah.